Hajime no Ippo. Now in the last video, we got to see Miyata's journey over to Thailand. Side note, one of my favorite little arcs so far, but now we're back in Japan. Ippo's fresh off of his fight with Okita, the former 5th ranked featherweight in Japan. After winning versus him, Ippo took up his 5th place ranking, and now he's trying his best to work his way up and get into a position to challenge the champion, Dante. But today, we get to see that some unfortunate events outside of the ring has Ippo ready to quit boxing forever. Starting the episode off, we get a view of Ippo's mother doing some work on the boating rental business. Ippo was doing some road work and sees her already almost finished packing up as he runs down there and immediately begins apologizing. He's saying that he had gotten so worked up and absorbed in his training and completely forgot to come by and help, but she tells him that he's all good. She wants him to focus on his training. He don't gotta worry about her. Ippo says thanks and waves them off as they're all leaving. We fast forward to later that day at Kamagawa Gym. We see everybody warming up, doing their thing. Of course, we see Aoki and Kimura and Ippo, but now we even see Barf Boy putting in some work of his own onto the heavy bag. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect Barf Boy to have no hands like these. I respect it. But out of nowhere, Gramps walks out with Yagi. He lets Aoki and Kimura know that them two have been entered into an A-class tournament. An A-class tournament is basically a tournament for boxers who have had at least 8 fights and have their A-class license. Ippo's explaining to Barf Boy that all types of top competitors, including the top 10 rankers in Japan, tend to compete in these type of tournaments, so it's honestly a pretty big deal. Aoki and Kimura are hype. Aoki's going on claiming that he's gonna take it home this year when, out of nowhere, Gramps tells Ippo that he's taking part in one as well. Yagi had went ahead and signed him up without asking him because he knew that Ippo wouldn't refuse. This is a complete shock to Ippo though. He's surprised that he's even about to fight against these top tier competitors above the rookie level, as Graham starts explaining that this isn't like the other fights that he'd participated in before. He's saying that in these matches, the interval between rounds are much shorter, which means that you have to continue fighting before you can even recuperate from the damage from the round before. But Gramps says if he keeps on winning like he says he will, then he'll be given priority challenging rights to the Japan title. He's going to be able to fight against Date for real. 80% of y'all, 81.8 to be exact, are not subscribed. It's one click of a button. We on the road to 100K. If y'all could just do me one favor and subscribe. Of course, Ippo says he's going to take it on. Gramps finishes it off by telling Barf Boy, saying that as for him, it's time for him to take the certification exam. He's been around Ippo, Aoki, Kimura, and for a little while now, so Gramps says the certification exam shouldn't be no big deal. Of course, he's nervous, but Aoki and Kimura calm him down, saying that they're the ones that trained him, so he's gonna be completely fine, as they're all wishing for the best in each other's own endeavors. Of course, they want each other to win in their respective weight class, and they want Barf Boy to pass the certification exam as well. And on top of everything that's being said, Yagi says there's even more good news. A TV show is actually planning to do a segment on Kamagawa Gym, with the host being none other than idol pop star Kumiko Marita. As soon as they hear the name, everybody gets hyped. They're all big fans. Even Yagi's over here blushing at the thought of meeting her in person. We ain't never seen him act like this. Gramps is going on about how they're supposed to be interviewed about their boxing styles, their hopes and admirations, but Aoki and Kimura not hearing a thing. They're imagining what an interview with Kumiko would be like. But out of nowhere, Aunt pulls up from behind him. He's like, Kumiko, man, I can't afford to be doing road work at a time like these. He brings Aoki and Kimura close, saying that y'all gonna have to sit back for this one. I'm gonna be the only one who gets to show off to Kumiko. The three of them getting into it about who's gonna be able to talk to her, who's gonna be able to fight in front of her, who's gonna be able to get their interviews. When we zoom out, seeing that the other two, Ippo and Barf Boy, were just completely excluded from the entire conversation. We fast forward to seeing the filming of that exact segment. Kumiko is right outside of Kamagawa. She's giving the intro to the segment, saying that she's supposed to be interviewing these young and upcoming boxers from Kamagawa Gym. and honestly, she's a little bit afraid to see what's going on in there. She thinks it's gonna be real intense, it's gonna be serious, and she's never been in a situation like this, but she says that she'll do her best. As she reaches to open up the door, all of them barge in before she even gets a chance to do anything. They're like, oh my gosh, he's actually here. It's the real thing. Unk's like, do I gotta hold back? What can I do on TV? And Kimura's wondering just what the hell this man Unk was really planning on doing. If he asking if he can hold back, if he has to hold back, it couldn't have been nothing good, bruh. This man Unk is insane. But they're all asking for autographs, asking them to sign their pictures, shirts, their foreheads. Just seeing all of them pop out like this, they starting to think if they really should have came to this gym or chosen another one instead. But as we get inside, everybody's trying their best to get featured as much as possible. Unk's like, nephew, get a shot of these. Honestly, you can just make this the whole segment. As he starts punching the heavy bag, he's saying that this is the greatest punch in the world. Kumiko's explaining how incredible this is. That's the Japan middleweight champion for you, Takamura. He's making the heavy bag move like it's nothing. Then we cut over to seeing Aoki and Kimura practicing some moves, saying that they're stopping their punches right before they get hit, as it's an important training tool so they can get a feel for the actual match. As the cameraman's looking at them, he's wondering why they got this weird looking face while they're doing it. They're not intense at all. They're smiling, looking towards the camera, being all giddy, talking slow and in this weird voice. But the director says he can definitely tell that this is a gym full of high-ranked boxers. Even with all their nonsense that they're putting on for the camera, their moves are still super impressive. But Unk start doing a little bit too much, and the director told the cameraman, try not to show his face as best as possible. As Kumiko's doing their thing, we see Ippo in the background thinking to himself that he wants to do something for the camera too. He wants to do something that could appeal to Kumiko. He's trying to think of what he could possibly do to show off in front of her that would make him stand out, and he imagines himself knocking out Barf Boy and Kumiko being all impressed in the background. This man Ippo is insane, bruh. He even brings himself back down to reality, shaking all those thoughts off, realizing that he's beginning to act stupid just like the three of them. He logs back in, realizing that his one and only goal is to fight Date. Somehow, he almost forgot. He says that he's gotta forget the camera and focus in on his practice, but as he hears the three of them laughing with Kumiko in the background, he's trying his best to tell himself that he's not jealous, but we see he's trying to convince himself as much as he really can. Suddenly, the director pops up saying, Ippo, right? Can we get you to do a little bit of sparring? Ippo's like, sparring? Who I'ma spar against? And as we look into the ring, we see Kumiko introing a new segment saying that she's not here just to be watching them go down. She wants to get some sparring experience for real. And her opponent is going to be the 5th ranked featherweight fighter, Ippo Makunochi. Ippo was trying his best not to get sucked into all the nonsense, but at this point, he can't help it. Of course, Aoki and Kimura are pissed. But regardless of what they wanted, the director chose Ippo, and the bell rings for the spar to begin. As Kumiko squares up, Ippo says he's never seen such a cute fighting pose before. He can't focus at all. The director's in the background telling him to go very lightly. He wants Ippo to throw these pretend punches and things of that nature, but don't actually land anything. As Ippo gets into this little funky fighting pose, she shrieks like, oh man, it looks so dangerous, I'm so scared. He can't even keep eye contact with her at this point. He's looking down saying that, I know it's only pretend, but I can't even aim for her face. He announces that for his first blow, he's gonna aim for the body. He's thinking to himself that surely she could dodge something like this, right? He goes real slowly, aiming for a right, and hits her right in her chest. He can't believe that she didn't move out the way and that he really just did that. She's in the background like, oh my gosh, I got hit. And we can already tell in the background, those three are pissed. Aoki and Kimura pull Ippo out to the side, and Kimura's calling him a thug, like, you did it on purpose, didn't you, you fiend? I bet you was aiming for it the entire time. But this man Aoki is insane, bruh. I've been calling a lot of people insane, but they acting wild right now, bruh. He's like, did he hit it here? Did he hit it here, bruh? Aoki, man, you a freak, bruh. Ippo just can't handle everything that's going on right now, but he's got to lock back in, realizing that, once again, he can't fall down to this level of foolishness. We see her swaying side to side, and she starts throwing some punches, and Ippo's realizing that they actually kind of got a little strength to them. He said he shouldn't underestimate her just because she's a girl, but then he notices something. He starts getting hit in the face repeatedly, and Barf Boy's wondering what's wrong. As we take a look at Ippo, he's getting pieced up punch after punch, because he's got a close-up view of her chest bouncing all in this man's face. The three stooges off to the side are pissed. Like, come on, man, come on, tag me in, it's my turn. But Ippo just lets this go on for the entirety of the first round, as the three of them are in the background like, yeah, we gotta kill this man. But the sparring versus Ippo was the end of the segment, as she says thank you for all your time. As the bus drives away, they all ended up getting their autographs, and Barf Boy is realizing that Ippo's becoming just like them. Days later, they're all grouped up around the TV in order to watch the segment since it's finally live. They're watching the interview portions as Kumiko had asked them about their goals with boxing and Kamigawa gym. Takamura gives the answer that we expect from him. His goal is to become the strongest man in the world. As they introduce Kimura, I think this is the first time that we get to see this, but they say that he's the 3rd ranked fighter in Japan lightweight class. He says his goal is to climb up the ranks bit by bit, eventually going for the #1 title. And when we get to Ippo's turn, he's like, my goal? Well, normally instead of setting goals, I just like to take things one step at a time and not look too far into the future. And Unk pulls him off to the side, saying that just hearing him talk and fumble around his words like this is pissing him off. But we hear Ippo on the TV say that he actually just wants to fight the Japan champion, Date. Honestly, that's his only goal right now. Ippo sighs out of relief, saying that he's glad he didn't embarrass himself by saying anything weird on TV, but Unk lets go of his collar and everybody's just looking off. Kimura is asking him if he understands what he just said. Aoki explains to him that with what he just said, he just called out Date on national television. Ippo's like, no, I didn't do that. I was just telling her about my goal like she asked. But Unk says that's exactly what you did. Now, I wonder how the old man is gonna react. Unk says Date's so ahead of the competition that he can't even find a proper opponent for a sparring session. Now that you called him out on live TV, he might just go ahead and nominate you for his next fight as soon as possible. Ippo's shocked, like, as soon as possible? I can't do that. I can't fight him right now. That's way too soon. But Unk's like, shit, you better pray that he don't come for you. Ippo starts walking off, worried about the possibility of making Date mad and having to fight him already, when we hear that they filmed people from a couple other gyms as well. Kumiko pulls up to Ottawa gym, explaining that there's a foreign fighter here from a faraway land, the current 3rd rank in the featherweight class. Hearing that he's in the same class as Ippo, he turns around for a second as Kumiko introduced the 3rd ranked fighter, Volg, a deadly fighter from Russia. His coach is explaining that Russia's in the process of taking over the amateur boxing world in nearly every weight class, and personally, he thinks that their current level is good enough to succeed in professional boxing. We get a monologue from Volg saying that it's his mission to become the professional world champion, and for that goal, he's gonna start out by taking the Japan title and using it as a stepping stone. His goal right now is to take the belt from Date, completely calling him out in a much more direct way than Ippo did, while also doing it completely on purpose. Aoki and Kimura recognize him as last year's amateur world champion, wondering if he's going to be in the A-class tournament as well. Unk just looks back at Ippo, saying that things always get real interesting. They just got another challenge from a place that was totally unexpected. The next thing we see is Ippo at Barf Boy's certification exam. He's kind of nervous being Barf Boy's only escort there. Aoki and Kimura were supposed to show up, but of course, they didn't. So Ippo's taking full responsibility as Barf Boy's mentor to watch him as he's here and make sure that he's got his act all together. He knows that he's not going to have a problem with the written test, but he thinks he might get nervous during the sparring. He's remembering back to when he took it, remembering the first time that he had stepped into the ring. He was super nervous, realizing how bright the lights were, as he says it's been 2 years since then, and just smiles thinking about all the progress that he made. Suddenly, the fighters walk in after the written test, but Barf Boy's nowhere to be found. He's thinking for a second and realizes where he might be. He runs over to the bathroom, and there he's practicing his moves, making sure he's got everything down to a T. Of course, if you remember back during Ippo's certification exam, he did the exact same thing. When Barf Boy notices Ippo, he's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had everything down before I head out there. Ippo's trying to calm him down and tells him to just do things how he normally does back at the gym. He's been running and sparring alongside people in the top 5 ranks of their respective weight classes in Japan. He assures them that he's not going to have any problem sparring against some rookies. Barf Boy's thinking, yeah, there's no way that any of them could be nearly as strong as you guys, right? And Ippo's glad hearing that he's gaining some more confidence and has corrected his line of thinking. He starts to make his way out, but we see he's doing this funky little walk. We could tell he's trying his best to put on an act of confidence, but he's not really able to fully show it. Ippo runs back up to him, telling Barf Boy that he's got to do his best to relax. He's trying to get him to take deep breaths as they both inhale for a second. Then they realize they was in the bathroom, inhaling all type of dookie particles. Who knows what's in there, as they run out. And we fast forward to the match before Barf Boys. Ippo hears some people out to the side making fun of the applicants because in the ring, they're real confused and don't look like they know what they're doing. As soon as they call Barf Boy's number, he walks up on top of the resin and starts to make his way up. But as he takes his first step, he sticks to the ground and falls flat on his face. Ippo is shocked, and of course, these 2 hecklers out to the side are laughing at him. But Barf Boy tells the ref that he's alright as he steps into the ring. Ippo is completely locked in on his fight. As the ref tells him to box, Barf Boy immediately starts taking some hits and missing some of the hits that he's throwing. The hecklers are like, man, what a loser. And Ippo glares right at him, but as this dude looks back at Ippo, he shies away, looking down, thinking to himself that there's no reason to make fun of him. He's a rookie. Barf Boy throws a quick jab, but gets hit with 2 jabs right after that, as these 2 on the side are continuing to talk crazy, saying that the gym that produced him must have no shame. He's so slow. But he's thinking to himself that y'all have no idea how hard he worked in order to get just to this level. They're in the ring doing their thing as the spar's going on, and Ippo begins cheering them on. But the haters on the side are still talking crazy like, ref, cut it off, call it raps. This is painful to watch. I can't see this no more. Ippo glares at them once again, and they're starting to get mad that Ippo keeps looking in their direction. He's thinking to himself that he's an applicant. It's supposed to look weird and awkward. Why are y'all making fun of him for that? I bet y'all don't even know how it feels to be in this position. He's thinking all of this, but they just see Ippo staring at them, so they get up, wondering if he's trying to pick a fight with them. Ippo, for some reason, is scared, not wanting any confrontation with the 2 of them, but suddenly, we just hear. We look over, and we see that Barf Boy got a knockdown. The ref tells him that he did a good job showcasing his skills, and now all he has to do is wait for his results. As he leaves the ring, Ippo's there waiting for him, and he's so nervous about his performance since he ended up taking so many hits. He's asking Ippo if he did good, and Ippo just puts his hand on his shoulder as he tears up, thinking about all the work that he had went through, as he just tells Barf Boy that he did his best, and Ippo couldn't be more proud. The 2 hecklers are still there like, man, y'all 2 get a room, losers. But standing behind them, they're like, Barf Boy must have passed, right? Unk's like, of course. We're the ones that trained him. We made a fine boxer out of him, didn't we? As we look up, we see Unk, Aoki, and Kimura asking, by the way, who was you calling shameless again? Unk takes both of them out back to go ahead and deal with them, as Aoki and Kimura let Ippo and Barf Boy have their moment. Outside the gym, as Ippo and Barf Boy are walking out, they're greeted by Unk, Aoki, Kimura, and the 2 hecklers from earlier, as they're like, Barf Boy, you sure did good out there, man. You passed for sure. And Unk's like, hey, make sure y'all congratulate him too. As the 2 hecklers are saying, congratulations, it was truly a great sparring session. It must be because he's from the fabulous Kamigawa gym. Ippo doesn't even want to think of what Unk did to these 2 in order to make them start talking like this, as we just fast forward to a couple days later, after Barf Boy gets the news that he passed the exam and is getting his license. In the midst of his celebration, all of a sudden, Yagi pulls out the bracket for the A-class tournament. They're all trying to see who they're going up against when Ippo realizes that both Sendo and Mashiba are nowhere to be found. Yagi explains that right now, Sendo's out taking fights in another region, and as for Mashiba, but he's cut off by Kimura, stressed out hearing that he's entered the junior lightweight class, one up from featherweight. He's imagining being in the ring with Mashiba right now and is scared at the thought of having to fight somebody like him. Yagi explains that he had to move up a weight class because he was struggling to stay within the weight requirements. When Aoki realizes that in Ippo's class, the featherweight class, there's only 4 fighters. Ippo only has to win 2 matches, and that's the entire bracket. Ippo says it's not good to assume it'll be easy when Yagi explains that there's only 4 fighters because 3 of the fighters before Ippo joined had immediately dropped out after hearing that Vogue had entered. Ippo surprised that Japan rankers who qualified for an A-class tournament had fled after just hearing that somebody else joined. When Gramps chimes in saying that that's how much of a threat Vogue truly is. But he's on the other side of the bracket, so Ippo wasn't facing up against him just yet. He still has one more person to go through. Suddenly, walks in, wondering why everybody's in such a gloomy mood. Yagi explains that the brackets for the tournament had came in, and Unk's like, man, so that's why everybody's so nervous. Must be rough being a chump. And he starts laughing, but ain't nobody else laughing with him. They're all mad at him, but he's telling them to lighten up. He says it's time to announce the annual training camp. Now, I know y'all remember how the last training camp was. Kimura's pointing out that's what had enabled Ippo to beat Hayami. It had really enabled his true rapid skill progression as Unk runs up on Barf Boy saying that you've got to come too. If you can withstand training camp, then you'll catch up to these two in no time. Aoki and Kimura are shocked, just imagining the sight of Ippo and Barf Boy both being champions in their weight classes, while making fun of Aoki and Kimura for still not making it there yet. Fast forward to later that night, back at Ippo's place, and he just runs in through the door, but his mom was there sleeping on the table. She's like, oh, sorry, I didn't notice you came in. Nah, don't mind me, I just fell asleep for a little bit. Ippo starts explaining that Barf Boy passed the certification exam, and now there's talk of all of them going to training camp so that they could do their best during the A-class tournament. He's asking her if it's okay if he takes a week off of work, and she's like, yeah, since you're gonna be fighting these strong people, you should be in the best shape possible, and since you really want to win, that's fine with me. He says thanks and immediately runs out as Ippo's mom just sits there grabbing the back of her neck. Ippo's just lying in bed, excited about training camp, realizing that he just can't wait. The next day at Kamigawa Gym, Gramps says that they're departing in 2 days, so he wants all of them to be in the proper fighting spirit. They're all happy, ready to go, but Gramps says this time he is going to be accompanying them from the very first day, and it immediately kills their entire vibe. Inside the ring, Ippo's going crazy. He's super fired up at the thought of this A-class tournament, and Kimura knows that if he wins, he's going to be lined up for that fight that he's really waiting for. They're all remembering their vows from under the fireworks last year. They know they need to conquer this A-class tournament and go for the champion belt as well. But suddenly, while Ippo's training, Yagi runs in through the back saying that they just got a call from the hospital. It's his mom. Ippo dashes out, and we get to hear that Yagi had told him that she suddenly collapsed while at work. And as he makes it there, the nurse is telling him that she's sleeping right now while hooked up to her IV. She's gonna need to be in the hospital for about a month, as she explains that she's anemic from overwork and exhaustion. She's accumulated so much fatigue over time, and what she needs most right now is just rest. As Ippo walks in, he sees his mom lying there in the hospital bed, all hooked up to the IV. He just looks at her, apologizing, saying that it's his fault. He didn't help her until she was so tired that she had collapsed. He's remembering all of the times that she would allow him to do his training and allow him to take time off of work in order to practice and do all of this stuff for boxing. Ippo's ashamed that he had only thought about himself. He was here getting excited about training camp while she was going through it. As tears just roll down his face, he repeatedly says that he's sorry. And the next thing that we see is Ippo taking his mom's spot, working for the business. Now, the whole premise of their business is that they own a fishing boat. Fishermen will come and rent their boat in order to go out on the water and actually fish. Usually his mom is the one who prepares the boat and takes them out sailing so that they can do the fishing, but now it's got to be Ippo. Some of the regular clients see Ippo there, so they already know who he is since he's usually around and helping out. But today, for the first time, he's the captain. They're wondering what's up with his mom, as he explains that she's just a bit under the weather, but she'll be alright. She's just taking a couple of days off so she can get some rest. Dude's like, I guess that means you'll be our captain for a little while, huh? And Ippo's like, yeah, I will be. As the fisherman just says, man, I wish I had a son like you, who always does his mother proud. But Ippo looks down saying, I'm not a dependable son at all. He's trying to cheer Ippo up and tell him not to talk so bad about himself. His mother is always so happy when she talks about him. she truly is proud of him. But fast forward to the end of the day, turns out the fisherman had barely caught any fish. It was a terrible day. Ippo's apologizing, knowing that it's his fault for not understanding where the good fishing spots were, as they're just like, don't even worry about it. You're a rookie, you new at this, so it's not a huge deal. They just tell him to work hard and find them a good spot to fish, and they'll be all good. Ippo's scrubbing the deck as he's thinking of everything that he has to do as he's cleaning. He's realizing that he has to learn where the good spots are, and when he gets home, he has to unthaw the frozen bait and then organize the payment slips. And on top of all of that, he's got another group booked for tomorrow morning, so he has to start carrying on the boxes around 4 a.m. He's exhausted just thinking about it, realizing that his mom had did this every single day on top of cooking meals and caring for Ippo. He says that it seems impossible, but he's determined not to lose heart since everything's on him to make it happen. Everything is on his back. The next morning, he wakes up even earlier than 4 a.m. because he's got to go out and do his road work. We get a little montage of him doing his training, him working, visiting his mom in the hospital as he's asking her about tips on where to fish so that their clients could get good spots. He's trying his best to juggle both boxing and work, but after some time, we see that he's pretty overwhelmed with just doing everything. During a visit to the hospital, he's just chatting with his mom about some stories from work, and as they're laughing, he yawns in the middle of his story. His mom realizes that he's probably tired from doing all this work that she had to stop since she was in the hospital, and apologizes, saying that it's her fault that she let this happen to herself. She knows that Ippo's supposed to be at training camp right now, and he was really excited about it, and since he has a match coming up, she lets him know that he can go ahead and close up the shop for a little bit while she recovers, and she'll just take over when she's back. Ippo doesn't like that idea because he knows if they close up shop, their clients are gonna find somebody else regardless of how they're feeling. They've got to be there reliably for their clients so that they keep on coming back and keep generating income. That's what keeps the business alive. He knows how hard she worked to make this what it is, and he can't be the one to give it all up. Ippo's mom said that she had expected something like this would eventually happen. She knew that if she kept doing all of this work all on her own, she would burn out. So in advance, she put an ad in the paper for hire, but she never got any responses. She ends up saying that maybe it's time to just go ahead and quit the fishing boat rental business. After all, it's not like it brings in a lot of money. But Ippo says, no way. What about the boat? That's the boat that Dad had left us. She just looks down and he tells her not to worry about it. He's handling both work and training, claiming that it's not so difficult. He says he's gonna be fine. But we see the next morning when his alarm goes off, he sleeps right through it. Fast forward to the gang over at training camp, and it's nothing like last time. For starters, it's been raining every single day, and they're picking on Barf Boy, saying that he's the one that brought the rain here. He's a bad luck charm. Back when they had brought Ippo, they didn't get a single day of rain, but Unc tells them it doesn't matter, saying that since Gramps is here, every day is the same, rain or sunshine. But still, all of them are wondering how Ippo's doing. We get a view of Ippo waking up, realizing that he overslept, thinking that he might still have time to go and get the boat out. We're getting some context that Yagi had contacted the gang while they were out at training camp, telling them that Ippo hasn't been to the gym once since they left. He's handling all of his work responsibilities, and as we see him load up the boat, he realizes that miraculously he was able to do it in time, but he didn't have time to get in his road work. Komura is telling the rest of the Kamigawa gang that he heard from Yagi, Ippo's considering quitting boxing forever. Fight money just isn't enough to make a living off of, and he's not in school anymore. He's not a kid. He's gotta work and make some type of money. As Unc just walks off, Komura says that there are plenty cases of extremely gifted fighters who just weren't able to fight due to family circumstances. Back over with Ippo, he knows that he hasn't been training nearly enough and realizes that he's in no shape to fight in that A-class tournament. He comes to the conclusion that doing both boxing and work is just too much. He's starting to see his limits. He has no choice but to focus on one. He thinks of the Kamigawa gang back at the gym, realizing that they've made so much progress. But after thinking of his mom in the hospital, he knows that it's not really an option. He's not gonna let his mom go through this ever again. He has to be there and be the one to help her out. He's thinking of Mashiba, Hayami, Miyata, all of these strong opponents that he's fought so far, and everything that he's been able to achieve. He realizes how far he's gotten and says he's content with it. He says that this is good enough. But after thinking about it, thinking back to when he had first met Takamura, he had asked him what it meant to be strong, as he realizes that he still doesn't know. As he thinks of Date, he wonders if he might get the answer by fighting him. So in the end, he still can't make a decision. He's in this sort of impossible dilemma. Fast forward to the next time that he visits his mom, he sees her packing up, getting ready to go home and get back to work. He's trying to tell her that she can't leave now. She still needs time to rest, but she's saying that she hasn't even been able to rest properly, knowing that Ippo's doing this whole business by himself on top of all of his personal responsibilities at the same time. It's just eating up at her knowing that he hasn't been able to train and go towards his passion because of the work that she normally does. She says, after all, she knows that the most important thing to him is boxing. Ippo, at this point, is heartbroken because he realizes that as long as he continues boxing, his mom is going to continue to stress herself out, doing everything that she can, even at her own expense. He knows that this is all because of him. As she finishes packing up, he tells her that he's actually been on the fence about continuing boxing or not. She's surprised at the thought of it, but he tells her that she was right. He loves boxing so much and it's the most important thing to him, so he can't give it up. She's relieved hearing that because she knows that Ippo truly does love this, so she's being a good mother. She doesn't want him to give up on his passion and his dream just for her family business. But Ippo tells her that recently he hasn't had enough time to train for the tournament, so he's not going to be able to participate anyway. He wants her to rest up while he solely focuses on the business, and he says he'll go back to his real training and get back into the groove of things once she fully recovers, so that both time frames work out and he doesn't have to do everything all at once. She asks him if he's sure, and he says yeah, everything works out perfectly this way. But he's thinking to himself that he won't ever let his mother strain herself like this ever again. He knows that he's gonna quit boxing, but if he tells her now, she's not gonna let it happen. She's gonna go back home. He needs her to rest and get back healthy, and after she returns, he plans on just keeping boxing as more of a hobby rather than being a professional. He's repeating to himself that keeping boxing as a hobby is good enough. That'll be enough for him. As he says it over and over, it's almost as if he's trying to convince himself that he can truly quit boxing and give it up when we know that his heart isn't fully into it. Fast forward a little bit and we get to see some of the fishermen complimenting Ippo on how well he did on this most recent trip. They're seeing that he's rapidly improving and they appreciate all of his hard work, saying that he's really starting to fill out this uniform, which is basically saying that he's really coming into his own when it comes to running this shop and running the business. He's just thinking about it, and as he looks in the mail, he sees a package with a letter attached. It says, "Dear Ippo, I'm sending you 5 matches worth of Psyche's fights on videotape." Now, Psyche is the person that Ippo is seeded to fight in the A-class tournament. This letter is asking Ippo to study them, saying that as a boxing fan, I truly hope that you'll continue to fight professionally. From Fuji. Ippo thinks to himself, thank you, but I've already made my decision. Over at the training camp, we see that the gang is still there, mainly Barf Boy, but everybody's overall worried about Ippo's decision. Unk tries to lighten the mood by bringing up that tomorrow, Gramps isn't going to be there. He's got some business to take care of, so they got to get into the lighter spirit and better mood, hoping for better weather. Everybody gets hype thinking about it, but fast forward to the next day, and the weather is terrible. Now Unk is getting mad at Barf Boy, calling him the Rain Man, the Grim Reaper, the bringer of poverty. He's just going in on Barf Boy as we cut over to Ippo's shop, closed because of the harsh conditions. He's using this opportunity to catch up on the bookkeeping for the business as he's trying to keep track of all these different numbers. He got profit, loss, he got the pay slips, the expenses, where they come from, the different people, all types of stuff that he's got to manage and take care of when he's not used to this. Suddenly, he hears somebody knocking at the door, wondering if somebody's home. He runs up there, and as he opens it, we see somebody underneath this umbrella. As Ippo's asking who it is, he's like, what do you mean who it is? It's me. When he showed his face, I still didn't know who this is, but Ippo calls out Umezawa. Now, if y'all don't know who that is, honestly, I didn't even remember his name because I know him better as King Doodle Shirt. Now that he's out of the school uniform, it don't really make sense to call him King Doodle Shirt, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not calling him Umezawa. Shout out to bro, shout out your name, shout out your family name, but hey. So King Doodle walks in, Ippo makes him some tea and is wondering what brings him here. All of a sudden, he says that he's here to ask Ippo for a favor. Ippo's wondering what he could possibly do, as Doodle Shirt asks if he can work at the fishing boat rental shop. Ippo has no idea why, and Doodle Shirt explains that he heard the news about his mom and that Ippo hasn't been able to go to the gym because he's been overloaded with work, and Ippo agrees like, yeah, all of that is true. Doodle Shirt's wondering, then why didn't you ask me, your friend, for some help? Ippo's trying to backtrack a little bit like, I thought you would join the workforce though. I thought you worked in a trade now. But Doodle Shirt says that he quit. He actually decided to risk everything on his dream. He pulls out a book and hands it to Ippo, and as he opens it, we see this art piece drawn by King Doodle himself. He says that his dream is to become a manga artist, and as Ippo compliments him saying that this is amazing, he asks what genre of manga he wants to write. Turns out King Doodle is making a boxing manga, specifically about Ippo and his journey to becoming a champion. Ippo's obviously shocked because this is so out of left field. He doesn't know where this all came from, but he doubles down saying that he's already decided to quit. But that's where Doodle Shirt says that's why he's here in the first place. If he helps with the business, Ippo will gain some extra time to train, and Doodle Shirt will get material for the manga that he's writing, so it's a win-win for the both of them. Ippo doesn't want him doing such a favor, but King Doodle Shirt reassures him that this is also extremely beneficial for his manga. If Ippo stops boxing, then he won't have any material to write about, so they both need each other right now. He's begging Ippo at this point, and after thinking about it for a while, we fast forward to the next day. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. King Doodle Shirt is there with Ippo, and they're bringing some stuff onto the boat. Ippo is looking around all these boxes, and he tells Doodle Shirt to grab one and bring it up, but as he tries to, he could barely pick it up. He's wondering how Ippo could pick up 5 or 6 of these things at one time. It seems impossible, but he's also realizing that this must have been how he got his punching strength from doing all this work since he was a child. Fast forward to them being on the boat, Doodle Shirt can barely even stand straight. He's over the edge and is slipping back and forth as Ippo's telling him that he's got to be careful and watch his feet. Doodle Shirt's like, man, this thing really sways back and forth. His lower body strength and good balance must have been from getting used to the swaying of the boat back and forth. He really is gaining material and coming up with ideas for his manga in the middle of doing this all, so he's enjoying this too. Fast forward to later in the day, Ippo's explaining that they've got another haul for some night clients, so they've got to make sure to get the boat prepped in time for them as well. And after we see them take care of that, they're back to scrubbing the deck, and he's honestly wondering how Ippo is able to do all of this in one singular day, every day repeatedly. Ippo's looking worried, seeing that Doodle Shirt seems to be stressing about all of this, and by the time day 3 comes around, he's completely exhausted. Ippo's looking at him out there and realizes how hard he's working, but he says that if he is able to actually keep it up, he really will have some time to get back to training. Then out of nowhere, he hears Doodle Shirt puking over the edge as we fast forward to the end of the day, and he's there apologizing, saying that he's so sorry about what happened. Ippo just tells him that he needs to get home and get some rest, and as Doodle Shirt walks away with his head down, Ippo's like, I'll see you again tomorrow though. And Doodle Shirt just puts his hand up like, yeah, sure. We see he's completely demoralized, and even Ippo can tell that he's not coming back. All of this work already stresses him out, and he's been doing this for a majority of his life. He's mentally preparing himself to get back used to doing everything by himself, and his hopes of being able to return to training and get back into boxing dies out once again. As soon as Doodle Shirt turned the corner, he falls down the wall, ashamed that he's given up on all of this already. He says that it looks like he'll just be a half-assed delinquent for the rest of his life. We hear him explain that the real reason that he quit wasn't to chase his dream, but instead it was because he didn't like his boss yelling at him all the time. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. And as he looks over the corner, he sees Ippo doing some shadow boxing, realizing that he's got himself tied up in this whole thing. He just feels bad for giving Ippo hope and then snatching it away from him as we just fade to the next day. Ippo wakes up tired, as usual, but as he steps outside, King Doodle Shirt is like, "You're late. I've already got all the luggage onto the boat." He's surprised to see him there and is offering to help, but he's like, "I got it. You need to go and do your road work." Ippo's insisting on helping, but Doodle Shirt is fighting back, saying that if you don't box, then my manga will never get anywhere. So just go ahead and get it done before I change my mind. Ippo just puts his head down, apologizing, saying that he thought he would never see him again. Doodle Shirt just turns around, saying that once I finish my manga, you're gonna be the first one to see it. I'll make sure that you're impressed. Ippo just smiles, and we get to see the Kamigawa gang returning from training camp. Barf Boy, of course, is worried about Ippo, and Komura says if he's that worried, they can all go and check up on him after we settle down here. But as they pop into the gym, they see Ippo in there. He's like, "Oh, welcome back, y'all. It's good to see you." They're all shocked because they had heard that he hadn't been to the gym in forever. They thought he was done with boxing. Ippo explains that he's getting some help from a friend, so he was able to free up some time and get back in here. So he's gonna start resuming training today. They're of course all happy to see that he's not quitting, but all of a sudden, gloves get thrown at his face. Unk says, "If this all done for, then go ahead and hop in the ring. I need to see where you're at after a week of not doing nothing." Ippo gets in the ring, and instantly, Unk starts whooping on this man. He's yelling at him like, "Why you backing up? You're completely out of shape. I ain't never seen you like this." He's punching at him again and again and again, as on the side, Barf Boy is asking Unk to tone it down. He's overdoing it. But Komura tells him to just sit back and watch. This is Unk's version of a welcome home. Ippo's getting all beat up and just feeling this pain, recognizes that this is what he's truly supposed to be doing. As Unk knocks him to the ground, they're starting to think that he really did it this time. But as he gets up, he slowly starts crying. Gramps just smiles, looking at him, and Ippo just continues saying that he's sorry. He had almost abandoned all of them, but now with everybody, he's finally home. We fast forward to seeing Ippo with Gramps punching on the heavy bag. He's going crazy for a good while, and after it's all done, Gramps wraps it up, and Yagi, who was watching the whole time, realizes that even though Ippo wasn't active for the past week, the power of his punches haven't gone anywhere. He's wondering what they should do about the A-class tournament. He seems to be in decent enough shape, but also he's fighting against stronger opponents than normal, so they can't exactly take this lightly. Gramps recognizes that his punches are still on point, but says his fight sense is probably in a pretty weak state right now. And also, they haven't come up with a strategy for his next opponent. He starts feeling some pain from holding the bag and calls out that Ippo had hit him with nothing but body blows right there. Finally, he realizes something and calls Ippo over. They're talking about his punches on the heavy bag earlier, and turns out Ippo was intentionally practicing those right body blows, as he imagined that would be the best way to counter Psyche. He did end up watching those tapes that Fuji had sent over, and this was the best he could come up with, though he says he still isn't in good enough shape to really compete. Gramps points out that his strategy for fighting Psyche is spot on. He tells Ippo that you're gonna fight in this tournament. And since he's already been making these quick preparations, if he truly intends to use them, then he better be prepared to win. The next thing that we see is Fuji looking at some paperwork while stopped at a red light. Turns out he's looking at Ippo's file, which was updated to say that he is participating in this A-class tournament, and he's happy that his letter and the tapes that he has sent had actually reached him, and he's excited to see Ippo fight in this tournament. Turns out he was heading over to Nakarai Gym, where we get to see for the first time Ippo's opponent, Psyche. Shockingly enough, he's in the ring with Date. They're doing some sparring and they're going back and forth a bit. Fuji asks Okita how Psyche's looking. He points out that Psyche's main quality is his speed. Turns out that throughout this entire sparring session so far, Date hasn't even been able to catch him, as Fuji says that checks out. After all, Psyche's nickname is the Speed Star. They're still going at it in the ring when Psyche goes for an uppercut counter, but Date is able to hit it out of the way. Okita recognizes the opening, but last second, Psyche backsteps, dodging out of the way as the final bell rings, and Date just says, "I guess at the end of the day, I failed to catch you. You're more speed over style, huh?" my least favorite type of boxer. Saiki takes those words as a compliment, saying that he was trying his best not to get hit. As Date goes back to Okita, he points out that it's even more annoying because he refused to use more than 60 to 70% of his true speed. But he just looks back, wondering if it would have been more fun to make him go all out. We see that Date wasn't necessarily trying to win this match. He was more going for the fun option of trying to catch the quote-unquote speed star. When I had first seen it, I thought it was kind of crazy that even the champion was no match for Saiki's speed. But at the end of the day, there's more than speed to boxing, as it sounds like if Date really wanted to, he could have pushed Saiki to his absolute limit. He just didn't think that would be the fun route, so he just decided not to. As he's looking at Saiki in the ring, he's thinking about Ippo, realizing that Saiki's not an opponent that he'll be able to beat by ordinary means. Back at Kamigawa, Ippo's asking Kimura, as an outboxer, what's the most difficult type of fighter to go up against. Kimura's thinking about it for a second, as he says, the type of boxer like you, who just charges forward relentlessly. And Ippo's hyped, because that means he's a good match for an outboxer like Saiki, but Kimura says his type is actually the easiest type to go up against. His real most difficult opponent is usually somebody who has better footwork than himself. They're always one step ahead of you, and it's just hard to get into your rhythm. Ippo's wondering, somebody faster than yourself, huh? And as Kimura gets back to his training, Ippo starts doing his routine with them. Everybody else is realizing that Ippo's trying to outbox. Ippo ends up throwing off the routine, doing these funky little moves, and everybody's laughing as Kimura's getting hot that he's messing up his rhythm. The next thing we see is a view of Toyo Athletic University. This is where Saiki's from. He walks in and everybody's like, hey big bro, what's happening? The captain instantly runs up on him and is saying like, thanks to you dropping out, we ended up getting killed at our meet. Turns out he was the star of their gym and left the amateur fighting scene to go and try professionally. They're just talking about it for a little while, how it's been in the big leagues from fighting in amateur leagues. We get to see that apparently Saiki is all about thrill. In the amateur leagues, they have padding on the gloves, and fighting with that extra safety measure just didn't end up doing it for Saiki after some time. The captain's asking him how he feels about the pros since transitioning, and Saiki just loves it. He says that the pros truly are something else. He says they all have this intensity about them. It feels as if you guys are both risking your life in every single punch, and in the split second right before the punch is able to make contact, he'll make his dodge and throw a punch of his own. He says that in that instant, that moment where you could devour your opponent and turn the tides of a match, there's nothing like it. He sees one of the fighters there trying to use this piece of equipment, which seems to be some type of resistance training machine, but he's struggling like crazy. Saiki's like, here, let me try that out for a second. As he puts him on, he lets them know that you can't really use just strength to make use of this machine and actually practice your punches. You gotta use your momentum, or in other words, your spring. He starts going crazy on it, and everybody's impressed as the captain explains that this is the secret to Saiki's speed, his springiness. The captain's saying that you probably won't get that thrilled since nobody can even land a punch on you, but Saiki corrects him, saying that his next opponent is said to have the strongest punches in the featherweight class. He's more than excited to see what these punches have in store, as he's hoping that Ippo's a strong fighter in order for him to get his thrills out of it. The next thing that we see is back at Kamigawa Gym. It's a week before the tournament, and Ippo's practicing a little bit with Barf Boy, practicing his speed and dodges and his overall outboxing, and Aoki's pretty impressed with his moves, but Kimura can see right through it. He's able to dodge back and forth, but he can tell Ippo can't really throw any punches that have any significant amount of power in them while he's trying to outbox. Ippo's not surprised that Kimura, an actual outboxer, was able to see through his plans, but he says that once he tries to put his hands into it and actually throw something, his rhythm goes all over the place. As Aoki and Kimura walk off, he's talking with Barf Boy a little bit about how he's going to figure out the strategy, and Barf Boy agrees to help him as much as possible in order to get him to where he needs to be. As soon as they get back to their little sparring, Barf Boy gives him this weird stare. He's glaring directly into his soul, and Ippo's like, bro, if you're looking at me like that, I can't even focus. Barf Boy, trying to correct himself, is like, shit, is this better? But of course it's not. It's something about Barf Boy I don't know about. I ain't never seen no look like these, but after noticing this, Ippo looks up. Barf Boy's wondering what the matter is, and Ippo says that he feels like he just got some type of hint. We fast forward to the hospital and King Doodle Shirt walk in. He's talking to Ippo's mom. They've gotten pretty familiar with each other since he's now working for their rental shop, and he drags Ippo out, who was seemingly nervous to come and congratulate her for her recovery. He was kind of embarrassed because he had flowers for her, and turns out Doodle Shirt was the one who had set everything up. But more importantly, he had set something up with Ippo's mom personally. He's like, "Boss, now's the time." She reaches in her bag and says that since she has so much free time while she was here, not working or doing anything else, she was able to make this. Ippo's mom had made him some brand new trunks to box in. She had did the sewing while King Doodle Shirt did the design. And as he looks on the back of it, he had made sure to include the name of the shop all across the back, saying that Ippo's practically going to be a walk-in fighting advertisement. He's telling Ippo now, "Don't you dare fall on us. That's gonna be bad PR for the store." Ippo's completely blindsided because this was the last thing that he had expected. But Doodle Shirt pulls out another gift, a brand new pair of boxing shoes. Ippo's amazed looking at these two, who are just smiling at him as he realizes that these shoes are real expensive. He's wondering if they're sure they want to give it to him, as of course they do. And he just thanks them, saying that he'll try his best in this upcoming match. Bro's asking him for a KO and they're all laughing about it, but Ippo's realizing that they were probably worried about him because he hasn't trained enough. He knows that he's caused everybody a ton of trouble and a lot of worry since what happened, so he wants to make up for all of it with this next fight. Fast forward a little bit and we're at the weigh-in. He's there with Aoki and Kimura, and as he's walking up, trying to look tough and be intimidating, he runs into Saiki himself. He's shocked to see him because that was the last person he thought he would run into, as they start greeting each other and Saiki just grabs his hand saying, "This is it, huh? The fist that contains the most destructive power in the entire featherweight class." He's wondering how Ippo's condition is because he heard the rumors about him quitting boxing and not training enough, but Ippo says he's just fine. Saiki tells him to hit him with everything that he's got, every last ounce of effort, as he plans on doing the same. As he walks away, Ippo is shocked, realizing how confident Saiki is. He's telling Ippo to use all of his power because he's 100% sure he'll be able to dodge it all. On the day of the fight, Ippo's in his warm-up room and he's just not able to stay still. He's practicing as Gramps calls out that not being able to take part in that training camp and taking all that time off is really starting to show. He says that Ippo's the type of fighter that gains confidence through repetitive training, but since he hasn't been training super consistently, it's starting to get to him. And on top of that, he's going up against Saiki, who's especially hard to fight against for Ippo's archetype. Not only has he been out of the game, but he's got to go against somebody who's going to make this match real uncomfortable. We can tell that he's kind of going through it when Gramps tells him he's got to calm down. All this flopping around, smacking the bench, doing all this isn't going to help him at all. Ippo locks back in and realizes that he's right. He has to concentrate since he's going to get caught up any minute. All of a sudden, Doodle Shirt walks in as he wanted to go in and snap a picture to show his mom for when he goes back to work. He has Ippo do some type of pose, and once he does and gets ready, Doodle Shirt's lining up the shot when the entire piece of film pops out, making this whole commotion right before Ippo's about to go in. He's trying to figure out if everything's all good, if the camera's okay, but Doodle Shirt swears he's got it when all of a sudden the staff member comes out telling Ippo it's his time to go in the ring. Doodle Shirt's kind of upset because he feels like he must have just messed up all of Ippo's concentration, all of his focus, and ruined his momentum for this upcoming fight. But actually, this little goofy interaction had allowed Ippo to calm down a little bit. He turns around saying, "I'm gonna keep my word for sure," being the knockout that Doodle Shirt had asked him for back at the hospital. As Gramps walks out, he just looks at him like, "I don't know your name, but I'm truly grateful for your help." Doodle Shirt don't know what just happened, but we just fast forward to seeing everybody in the ring, Saiki warming up, as well as his people from his hometown gym. While Ippo has a ton of fans in the crowd, turns out he's become real popular since he's won Rookie of the Year. He's gained a lot of traction, and in this particular case, the crowd is completely in his favor. Barf Boy's noticing how popular he is, and Unk is explaining that it's because he's grown this reputation for always being able to pull off the reversal knockout. In every situation, he seems to be the underdog, but always comes out on top out of nowhere. Date pulls up and Unk asks him who he thinks gonna come out on top in a matchup like this. Date's thinking, if you really want to think about it, yeah, I don't know. They both got a chance. He's just here to enjoy the show. Gramps is going over the game plan with Ippo. They've got an overwhelmed Psyche with right body blows. He's checking in to see if Ippo wants to try out his new footwork that he's been practicing, but Ippo doesn't even want to think about it. He knows that this match is only 6 rounds. That's not nearly enough time for him to be able to catch somebody like Psyche, who's a professional when it comes to speed and maneuvers. Getting ready for the fight, he says that he'll give it everything that he's got as Psyche's in his corner looking up at Ippo. He could tell that Ippo's completely different from when he was at the weigh-in. He says he switched over from Mr. Nice Guy over to the big bad fighter that's garnered an undefeated record since his debut. As they kick the seconds out, the first match of the featherweight A-class tournament is about to begin. Ippo with the most destructive power versus the speed star Psyche. As the bell rings, Psyche starts trying to feel out the match. He's waiting to see this power punch that Ippo's so well known for, but as he established his distance, Ippo's not budging at all. He's just observing Psyche very closely as he's circling around, but Ippo doesn't do anything. He just keeps his eye on him as we get to see inside of his head that he got this hint back when he was training with Barf Boy. He says it's difficult to get into a rhythm and work properly when somebody's glaring at you. While he knows this is a real simple plan, he's thinking that it's worth giving a shot since he doesn't have many other options. He's going to stare down Psyche during every single one of these moves, but after a while, even the ref is wondering what they're doing. The bell already rung, but they haven't done anything yet. He's trying to get them to actually start boxing as the fans are getting into it too, saying that they didn't pay no money for them tickets to see these two have a staring contest. They're yelling at Psyche, telling him to rush in, saying that his opponent's got the jitters. He's scared, but in Psyche's head, he knows that Ippo's trying to bait Psyche to come in, and as soon as he does, he'll try and bite. But Psyche wonders if he'll actually be able to sink his teeth into him. Psyche plants his foot and actually puts his fist down, beginning to casually walk up to Ippo. He moves his arms out to the side, trying to bait Ippo into a punch right here, slowly leaning in closer and closer. When Ippo finally bites, he starts throwing out 1-2s, but Psyche's dodging each and every one of them. He misses like his first 20 swings, but is finally able to land a body blow, but Psyche was able to put up his guard in time. He's shocked at Ippo's strength because even though he had blocked it using his cross guard, it still wasn't enough to absorb the full impact. He still got sent flying backwards. Recognizing Ippo's talent, he's even more excited for this match. We hear the captain of his hometown gym explain that he's doing all of this for the thrill. So he's slowly gonna ramp up and gradually increase his skill set as needed to keep his thrill at the absolute maximum. He likes to keep it close. He says that if Psyche starts out at full power, it won't be a close match, so he won't really enjoy it at all. If he allows the opponent to ramp up right alongside him, then it's exciting throughout each and every round. Psyche starts hopping up and down, beginning to establish his rhythm, and before Ippo even knows it, he swings right past his side, ending up behind him before he could even see. Ippo is shocked at his speed, trying to retaliate with some punches, but of course, none of them land as Psyche responds with a couple jabs. He's able to make an opening and Ippo knows that he has to come in to punch, so he realizes that it's his chance to counter. But as he tries to land the counter, Psyche is just completely unhittable. The commentators are calling out how the Speed Star is demonstrating his specialty and how all of Ippo's punches are being thrown into thin air. In Psyche's head, we get to see that he's more excited than ever. This is the feeling that he's been waiting for. Ippo knows that Psyche's only dodged these punches by a hair on purpose, but we get to see that through Ippo's barrage of punches, he was able to line Psyche up in the corner. His current strategy is to use the corner to help catch him instead of trying to do it solely on his own. If he can limit his movement, then things will be a lot easier. Psyche sees that he's been pushed to the corner and didn't even realize it, giving Ippo props on how he was able to do that. As Ippo rushes in, once again, Psyche's only dodging by a hair. After like 7 or 8 punches, he gets right up in Ippo's face, staring him dead in the eye, almost giving him a free punch, but once again moves out the way at the very last second, escaping from the corner with ease. Throughout this entire fight, Ippo hasn't been able to make any type of solid impact as he's realizing how ridiculous this really is, while Psyche is appreciating that one interaction for the amount of thrills that it gave him. Ippo's there, still stunned, and Psyche's just bouncing back and forth, keeping his feet warm, maintaining his rhythm. But by the time Ippo's even able to throw another punch, The bell rings and the first round is over. Of course, Saiki dodged his punch, so he just slightly moves his arm off to the side and goes back to his corner. Saiki's trainer is telling him that he can't even see your moves, you're doing great. But Saiki's like, he actually can see my moves. The fact that he was able to lead me into a corner without me even noticing is proof that he can see what I'm doing and even think ahead of me. But he says that's not a problem because in the next round, he's gonna quote unquote completely disappear from his sight. In Ippo's corner, he's feeling tired because he's been throwing all these punches but not getting anything in return. Ippo's saying that he was proud of his plan and his ability to get him into the corner, but Saiki was able to leave whenever he wanted to. At this point, Ippo thinks he's not even going to be able to win, but Gramps is trying to cheer him back up, telling him not to get his mental down. His plan of staying put and applying pressure that way wasn't exactly wrong. He tells Ippo to get Saiki back into the corner and focus on body blows. That was his original target the entire time. You can't forget that. When the second round starts, they both walk back towards the center and Saiki's over here establishing his rhythm. Once again, Ippo tries to catch him off guard, but Saiki's not getting hit. Ippo's impressed with Saiki's ability to focus on Ippo's moves and maintain just the right distance in order to not get hit. He's never seen something like this before. They get back to having their little stare down and Ippo's thinking about what Gramps said, staying put and applying pressure while Saiki's waiting on him to make the first move. The crowd's getting into it, pissed that they're not going at each other once again, but Gramps is on the sideline saying that this is exactly what you gotta do. You gotta take it slow and apply pressure this way. Suddenly, just for a slight second, Saiki seemed shocked at something. He looked over to the side and by the time he looked back, Ippo's already rushing him for it. He's seen this as an opening, so he's trying to take his full advantage. As he's throwing these punches, we get to see that he's throwing an abnormally high amount of lefts. Date in the crowd realizes that Ippo is finally using his head. He's doing this to bring Saiki around to his right side, understanding that Ippo's real target is his body. By the time that he's got Saiki up against the ropes, he readies up his right and Gramps knows he's got nowhere to run. This was his plan the whole time and Ippo knows that he's got him, but as he goes for the right, he still misses. Saiki had actually leaned further back into the rope in order to create just enough separation to not get hit by Ippo's right and is able to escape from being pushed back against the rope and trapped. Saiki's in his head, thanking Ippo for giving him his fair share of thrills, saying that now it's my turn. As he makes his move, before long, Ippo finds himself in the corner, and as Saiki is unleashing these punches, Ippo recognizes them as flicker jab, the same punch that Mashiba had used Faye versus Miyata and Ippo himself. He's launching punches on and on and on as Ippo's taking hits from this barrage. He's trying his best to keep his guard up and finally just ends up putting his head down and running through in order to escape. But as he looks back up, we see that he's already taken a lot of damage, mainly in his eye. It's completely swollen up and we see that Ippo's point of view is severely limited from his right eye being taken out. As Saiki's getting back into his rhythm, he's bouncing back and forth and it's literally beginning to disappear from Ippo's vision. Ippo starts looking around, but because of his limited angle of view, he can't find Saiki anywhere. Of course, there's only one place that Saiki could actually be, on his right side where his right eye is missing, but in the heat of the moment, Ippo doesn't even know what's going on. Gramps yells out to him that he's on your right, he's circled around to your right side, and Ippo's like, on my right? But as he looks over, he gets beamed with a punch. He gets sent flying back as Saiki starts following up, but the ref intervenes as round 2 is over. As Ippo's in his corner, he's giving Saiki nothing but props. His speed, attention to detail, flicker jabs, strength, all of it is amazing. Gramps is trying to tell him not to gas him up too much. They're in the same class right now. They're both in this A-class tournament. He says now that they found themselves in a situation that they didn't expect, they gotta brainstorm and come up with a new plan. But he wants to make sure it's nothing too intricate. He says that in situations like this, you gotta start taking steps one by one and start stacking wins on top of each other. He asks Ippo what was his goal with this entire match in the first place. Ippo's like, I thought it was obvious, I wanna win. But Gramps asks him deeper than that. After thinking about it for a second, Ippo says that he wanted to show everybody who had went out of their way to help him out that he's okay now. Gramps is telling him not to use past tense. He's talking as if he already lost and he wasn't able to accomplish that goal. He says there's still 4 more rounds in this match, and to get what he really wanted to accomplish, all he needs to do is land one punch. One solid punch that will show everybody that he's back and he's okay. He needs to throw a punch that everybody who had helped him get back into the ring will accept. And Ippo's thinking in his head, if it's really only one punch that he needs, then that's the least that he could do for everybody. As they kick the seconds out, the ref calls for the third round to begin. As Saiki's adjusting his mouth guard, Ippo rushes in and starts throwing punches. He's surprised that Ippo still has this much stamina to lash out like this and throw this type of barrage, and Ippo's dialed in his head that all he needs to do is stay up close with him or else Saiki's gonna disappear once again. While Saiki is impressed with these punches, he says they're only amazing if they connect, and since he's dodging everything, it doesn't really matter. He swerves off to the side, and before Ippo could catch up with him, he's disappeared once again. He looks over to his right to spot him, but Saiki's already there, hitting him with a punch before he's able to retaliate. Saiki's bouncing around him, landing all these punches and dodging out the way before Ippo could get another punch off, while Unk in the stands is realizing that Saiki's getting even faster. As the rounds are going on, he's slowly ramping up his speed more and more, which is making his timing more and more difficult to predict. After his barrage, he lands a heavy body blow on Ippo as he begins tumbling backwards. As he leans back, it looks like he's about to fall, but remembering what Doodoo Shirt had said back then when they had gifted him his trunks, he's remembering what they had managed to do for him and manages to shift his foot to avoid falling back. He's like, man, that was close. He's ashamed that he nearly defaced the sign of his family store. He's thinking about Doodoo Shirt and his mom and what they had did to get him back into the ring. He had promised them a good fight and that he would do his best, so he can't afford to let it end like this. He's rushing back in with the intentions of landing that one good punch that he had talked about with Gramps earlier. Saiki's dodging out the way, and as he looks up at the clock, we see there's only 20 seconds remaining. He's wondering if he can finish it now and not give Ippo any time to recuperate. So he rushes in and begins the barrage of his own, while Ippo's taking all these punches, just thinking that he has to get one. Only one punch and he could be satisfied with the fight. But Saiki's not giving him any time to breathe. He's continuing on and on with this barrage, and at this point, Ippo can't even see where he is. Saiki hits him with the uppercut, and as he's leaning back, only a few seconds remain on the clock. He knows that he has enough time to finish the match, but suddenly, Ippo leans in on him and stops him from being able to throw the punch. Saiki's surprised, never have seen that coming, but he calms himself down, saying that it was just merely a miscalculation on his end. He didn't expect Ippo to lean in like that, but regardless, there's no need to panic. Gramps picks Ippo up off of Saiki's shoulder, telling him that he did a good job staying on his feet. Though he does point out that that last lean was pretty much all luck, since Ippo couldn't even see him in the first place. Ippo's like, it was luck, but because of that, I think I just figured something out, which may have been even luckier. He believes that with that one lean, he's potentially learned something that may actually give him a chance of catching him. Back in his corner, he's trying to explain his game plan, but Gramps is telling him to focus on his breathing, focusing on his recovery. He shouldn't be wasting his energy with talking, so he says whatever you think, whatever plan you got in your head, just run with it. Gramps says it seems like Ippo's on the brink of some type of breakthrough. Over at Saiki's corner, he's realizing just how tough Ippo is. His trainer is saying that sometimes you're gonna find professional boxers who thrive on adversity, but it's all still good. You're still in the lead, so we're in a good spot. Saiki's asking him if he sees that his rhythm is off at all. It seems like Saiki's bothered by something, but his trainer reassures him that his rhythm has been nothing but perfect. It's been completely consistent. Since round one, he's been able to establish it and get things going his way, so there's nothing to worry about. As they go back into the ring, the ref calls for the match to start, and we see that Ippo's not in a stable position at all. Saiki's noticing that the damage has finally reached Ippo's legs and decides that now it's time to finish it off in one clean swoop. Ippo sees him 1 second, then all of a sudden, he vanishes into his blind spot, instantly taking a hit, which leads into a barrage as Saiki's continuing his moves and not letting up. Out of nowhere, Ippo launches his arm off to the right, and Saiki just barely dodges. Gramps is wondering, what was that? He's wondering if he just flung his arm out into his blind spot in order to try and catch Saiki by blind luck. But inside the ring, Saiki knows that a lucky punch like that would never catch him. He's fast enough to react and dodge normal punches, so these lucky punches have zero chance. As Saiki looks at Ippo, he compliments him on his strength of spirit and his tenacity, saying that it's truly amazing. But he says that as long as Ippo has a blind spot, there's no way that he can win. As he starts initiating his footwork, getting back into his rhythm, Ippo takes notice, knowing that Psyche's gonna go back into his blind spot again. As Psyche does just that, Ippo knows that he's gotta be somewhere on his right side, and from the last round when he had accidentally leaned onto him, he was able to figure out where exactly his body was positioned. So as Psyche's making his move, Ippo lines up the timing and swings his fist, connecting right into Psyche's face. He gets flung back, giving Ippo enough time to turn and throw a real punch. This time, he connects with a right body blow, and this is the first punch that Ippo was actually able to get off throughout the entire fight. He goes to follow it up with the left, but Psyche suddenly falls just after taking one real punch from Ippo. He's understanding the true destructive power that Ippo really has. The crowd's going crazy, especially Doodle Shirt. He's Ippo's #1 fan at this point. He's going stupid in the crowd. and Date can't believe what Ippo's managing to pull off. He has this reputation for making these insane reversals, and somehow he's done it once again. As the refs count it down, Psyche's in his head thinking that I've got to calm back down. It was just merely a blind punch. My right, my left, both of my legs, everything's okay. I'm still conscious, so I'm good to go back into it. As he stands back up, the ref calls for the fight to continue, and Psyche's able to get back into the right headspace. He had gotten spooked out for a second after taking that hit, which he's not accustomed to taking, but he knows that Ippo doesn't have the vision from his right eye, so his blind spot is still in effect. He swears that it won't happen again as he dives right back into Ippo's blind spot. But this time, Ippo knows where he's gonna be, so he shoves him out of the way. Psyche doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how exactly Ippo knows where he is when he shouldn't be able to see from his right at all. But instead of being dumb and continuing to go right into his blind spot and risk taking these punches, Psyche decides to rely on his footwork. He originally had the strategy of making this blind spot and attacking from where Ippo can't see him, but since it's not working out, he just decides to rely on his speed. He is the speed star after all. He's still way faster than Ippo, especially after all this damage that he's taken. So he goes ahead and stops completely, pretty much inviting Ippo to come in. Ippo realizes that Psyche has some type of plan, but he knows he's probably not going to get another opportunity like this, so he pretty much has to take it. As he rushes in, Psyche's thinking about it, the split-second moment that he loved so much. As Ippo gets closer and closer, the thrills are getting higher and higher, and as he realizes Ippo's about to throw a left, he catches the feint and recognizes that his real goal was to throw the right. As he makes the correct read on Ippo, he begins to align his counter, but for some reason, he can't. Ippo's punch just barely misses, and Psyche's confused as to what's going on. Realizes that Psyche was slow to respond, and Date's wondering if he's already taken damage from that one punch. As Ippo continues his attack, he sends another one, just barely grazing his cheek, and finally throws a left, which Psyche just barely manages to block. He still doesn't know what's going on, how Ippo's able to land these punches against him, and just realizes that he must need to be faster. He decides to kick it up a gear and counter Ippo even sooner, but he gets beamed right in the face, getting sent flying backwards. Finally, and Date recognize what's going on. The reason that he was missing these counters and began taking hits from Ippo isn't because he had taken up too much physical damage, but because his body remembers what it's like taking a hit from Ippo already. They're explaining that his flesh was completely paralyzed out of fear. As he gets sent flying back, the ref stops Ippo from going in for another punch, but before he's even able to get Ippo back to his corner, Psyche's standing back up. He's just got this deranged look in his eye, saying that his feet can still move. He's still untouchable, but as he falls, the ref catches him, saying that Psyche's unable to continue. Ippo's still standing there. He hasn't moved an inch since being stopped by the ref, and Gramps and Yagi rush in telling him that he did a great job. He's still panting heavily, but Gramps is telling him that he can calm down now. He says that they saw. He had truly gave everybody who had helped him back into the ring a punch that they can truly accept. Finally, after everything that Ippo had went through, he's back.